All right, guys, you got Quasi here for Quasi Media Network and Quasi Animation Studio. I'm going to talk about putting clothes on a character once again. But the difference here between every other time I've shown you this and now is showing you little bitty things you can do to make changes, also to better fit the clothing to the character. Uh, and it's just be real quick. So again, it's not stuff that you really wouldn't know, but it's like if we want to make a pack, I'm looking at version 4 beta. You could what I'm talking about, you could still do in 3. It's just the way is different from this. So it's not exactly like this, but when you go over to the cogs at the top, there's 3 cogs. If we look at this from version 3, let's go to version 3 real quick, and I'll show you what I mean so you're not confused. You go up to the cogs. When there's something in here, it'll give you the option to be able to turn it into clothing. So let's just say if I go down here to my asset library, and let's just go 4 and I throw something in there, and there's a mesh there, I can actually start to build a clothing library with that. Okay, so just look through the add-on before you start like freaking out. Okay, so it's the same way with version 4. Even though it's in beta, it's not complete yet. So I wouldn't advise getting this just yet. But I'm using this because I'm just showing you how to, like I said, modify something or make adjustments to, so kind of on the fly. Okay, all right. So here I already have this here. It's this jacket. It's already set. I'm just gonna set it to the center. And most of the time, what I'll do is just move it by hand. We'll get in close. I'll just move it by hand. All right. Instead of doing all those other things, and then Control A all transforms. Now, so we clearly see that it's not directly on him. So what are we going to do? We're going to go into sculpt mode. I'm using hotkeys, so you can if you're a mouser, mouse. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and make certain adjustments, small minor adjustment. Now you see me doing this by hand with this, right? So what I want to acknowledge is the this part here, this area here, the, the part that goes around the wrist is actually connected to the mesh. If it's not connected to the mesh, you're gonna have issues where when you go to adjust it, and say you're using that pose mode adjust like in sculpt mode, is going to end up giving you an issue where it's going to be up here somewhere rather than down here. We don't want that. So ensure that those two pieces, if you're making these when you're making clothing, that these parts actually are connected. Okay. So let's go ahead and go back in there. All right. So I'm just going to make a slight adjustment here, and I'm going to go over to the elastic tool, and I'm going to push it up some because I want it above the wrist. All right. So another thing I'm going to do is turn that off because yeah. All right. And the other thing, let's see. I think this should be okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that should be all right. Okay, so we're gonna go back to grab mode. I'm make this a little smaller. So again, back to X Mirror. I accidentally hit save. I haven't saved this project because it's just for a tutorial. All right, so we're gonna take this and just push everything out to where it needs to be. Okay, to just at that point where we want it to be, and that's basically what you're gonna do. All right, it's the same thing as if you wanted to make adjustments to character. So the next video that I'm going to talk about, the next video I do is going to be about showing you um, how to not just do shape keys, but do certain shape keys and those be your main. Because most people would say create a secondary shape key. For instance, if you click the character, you go down here, you go to shape keys. I tend to just go to basis and just change that, and there's a reason for that because instead of creating a new key that holds, I'll just make everything will just be set on top of that. Now that doesn't mean you do that. That's what I do because I know I'm not trying to use these models outside of Blender. Okay, but outside of that, that's what I tend to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm using a tablet. So and of course that means I'm using a pen. So that means that this will be a little bit more precise. If I use my mouse, it's not as precise as if I use the pen, where it's just going to grab that little bit instead of so much. And again, this is just a grab tool I'm using. I'm not using the elastic deform. Okay. So here I'll go ahead and do this again. Let's stretch this out some. I'm so used to saving. All right. Okay. All right. Let's come back out. So that's set. All right. Again, used to saving. All right. Now, this is on this jacket. All right. Take that name and then paste it in there. All right. Same thing here. Just gonna call these pants, and paste. All right. So I'm gonna move these over to the center. I already know that they're not ready to rock. We're gonna go back into sculpt mode, make adjustments because I want it on the leg. That's not big enough. I'm going real big on it. All right, so that's too big. Let's make it a little smaller. Yep. All right, so now go ahead and go into, I can't think of words all of a sudden. All right, and then now because most of the time these are not exactly the same way. As you see, there's more down here than there is down there. So I'll come over here and just make my adjustments. And again, you really don't have to if you don't want. Like you could just leave it like it is. And the reason why I'm showing this like this is there have been a lot of questions in the human generator Discord about stuff like this. So what I'm doing is just one step at a time, showing you a process from square one all the way to whatever final product you're trying to get to. Okay. Instead of going in circles with it, we can just make adjustments accordingly. Oh, that should work. All right. Oh, almost clicked. I don't want to click yet. All right, let's see what we have here. All right. Yeah, I've been having to rest. I ended up at the hospital some odd days ago for low potassium. Yeah, so get up, people, and eat something. I'm definitely one of those that'll keep going. All right, so we see we got some issues there. All right, let me go into smooth. We'll just smooth this out right here. All right, and there also, and here. All right, cool. Go back in there, grab this from there. All right, and then I think that's okay. I think that fits pretty decently. All right. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty well fit, huh? All right, so we come out of there. That's set. All right, and then we turn the jacket back on. So when I turn the jacket on, it may be, yeah, okay. So that means also now I have to go in and readjust the jacket from the front. And in this case, I think I'm gonna go a little bit bigger because I don't want it to just be a small adjustment. See? So, yeah, be a pretty big adjustment on it. All right. Cool. All right, so that's on him now. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to show is okay. So in this case, because he's already got his clothes on, I'm going to go back over here to the clothing. I'm going to go to clothing, and I'm going to go to footwear. Again, this is version 4, but most of the things are still the same. So now that I have his pants, I can see where his shoes will sit on his pants. I mean, his pants will sit on his shoes. I can go and make adjustments accordingly now. So now I come in here and say, okay, well, I want this down a little bit more because I want it closer to the bottom of the pant. I mean, the top of the shoe, I mean to say. Get in a little tighter. All right. Go ahead, smooth that out a little bit. All right. Something to that effect. Turn this off because sometimes that's trippy. All right. So now, all right. Okay. All right. Now, It's all set. So the next part is really what I'm coming here with is putting the clothes on, getting everything situated, and then turning around, taking those same clothes. We're going to go ahead and lock those clothes in. Now, this is not a clothing tutorial, as you can tell by the title. This is about retargeting. Okay, so I find that a lot of people want to retarget or whatnot. So I'm going to retarget directly to the armature and not, and I say this again, not to a any sort of armature. Okay, so and the reason for this is I want to make sure that you understand how to do that from this particular aspect. Okay, and I'm going to use auto rig to do so. Okay, so I'm not going to add a facial rig because we're not doing that. All right. So now, and the reason why I showed you that first part again is to get you to see that you still need to make sure that these things are attached. All right. So the next thing I want to show is coming over here because for some reason, depending on the level of, as you see, there's a lot of geometry there, right? Or a lot of verts. So what I'll do is I'll put a corrective on. So when anytime one of these arms or whatnot bends, it doesn't look uh, really pixelated or choppy when it turns. Just smooths out, just the same way with the keyframes when you will have keyframes for that. So you could actually go in and make frames. I'm sorry, shape keys, not keyframes. So you can go in and make shape keys for your clothing also. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to ARP. I'm going to click his thing and going to go to retarget. Now you can also use this is Auto Rig Pro Remap. So you can also use Rococo. The same, when I say same thing is you just still have to do your bone mapping. So go for bone, okay? And you really need to pay attention to those specific bones. Sometimes the hip and the waist are the same bone, et cetera, et cetera. Again, this is about thinking it through. Don't just sit back and go, oh, it should just be instant. Like, no, some rigs are different than others. You might go get a mocap from some site you've never used before, and they're not saying hips or waist. They're just saying, spine 1 or spine 001 or spine 0. So you just don't know. You just don't know what you're going to end up with. All right, so what we're going to do is going to go and I'm going to bring in an FBX. Now you may have BVH. I can do this. I have BVHs, but we're going to do the FBX. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go to a general animation. So in this case, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to do gestures pack. All right, so what we're going to do is something like being cocky. All right, so I automatically suggest that you go up here and open up your operators or create a new one, right? So you hit the plus sign, you'll create a new one. And basically what you want to do is you go into, like for me, I told it to go, when I turn the operator on, click, over here what it does is it turns this to 0 because I have my first key at 0. And then it tells the armature to automatically rotate bone rotation. So when I bring it in, it's already what I need it to be. Now, most of the time, FBXs come in as a fake user. I turn that off because I'm not going to use it that way. All right. And then with that armature selected, you select the source. Now, even in Rococo, you can say, hey, let's do a bone list. It may not build the bone list the way that clearing every bone. As for instance, you can see here, it says none on mine most of the way. Why? Because it's using the default human generator armature. So you can create your own bone layouts. Okay, I have one, but I will have to go to import because I didn't save it as a preset. Okay, so what I will do is I will go to, where is it? Okay, yeah, because I had to go back up. All right, so I have one where it's human generator 3D mapping preset. Okay, and it automatically shows now everything's set up to go with this rig. Okay, right here where it says hips, spine. So if I come into here, this is spine. You see what I mean? It doesn't say hips, even though on the Mixamo model it says hips. So that's why I say don't be too hard about trying to everything being specifically named the same. Everyone doesn't name the bones identically. Okay, so we're going to retarget. I'm going to make my Bezier, and then I will usually make it a fake user, but I'm not right now. So we'll wait for it to retarget. Now, depending on the way that the retarget goes, sometimes the fingers work well, sometimes they don't. But I always suggest to go in and make adjustments yourself. So for instance, here, we clearly see that we have, like, I don't understand why the arm is straight even on this model. It's not. So what I do is I delete this, I clear that out. And then a free, very free add-on for Blender is Animate. Excuse me. I say go to Animate. You're going to click your armature. Okay. And here we'll activate it. When we activate it, what it does is this. So since we're done with the um, pose library, what I'll do is come here. So what it does is, now I'm in the action editor here, but you would usually be in your oh, what is it? Hold on, wait a minute. What? Okay, there we go. So usually you would be in your graph editor when you do something like this, but in this case you don't have to. So I'll go over to rotation just to see it and local transformations. Okay, so my orientation, my transform orientation, I'll turn to local so I can see which directions this bone is actually going. But I'm going to hit reset R. So I'm going to go ahead and reset rotation by hitting Alt R on both of those. Now you say, what? So I hit one here because I already see clearly what's going on with the bone, and then I'll just bring it back down. Now the reason why I'm doing it is because shoulders tend not to be that far flexed. Okay, so I notice here that these arms are very much far back, and this is bent too far. So I'll just bring it back forward. I'll do the same thing here, just ever so slightly. Okay, and then I know the rotation is weird here, so I'll rotate it inward, and the same thing here, I'll rotate it inward. Now this is me doing what I usually would do if I'm setting something up or correcting something. So I'm going to reset those fingers, and even here I'm going to pull that wrist back, and I'll change those directions. Okay, so now you say, well, those fingers are far apart. Okay, cool, then set them. And I say use, like, if you're going to grab all of this, say I turn that last one off. The reason why I use the quaternion gimbal is so that I can move those fingers together without it being a problem. But you need to be in a specific direction because it follows you wherever direction you're in, right? So say you hit 3, then you would turn that quaternion gimbal that way. All right. Now another thing I like to do is select all of these and then go up here to your actual pivot point and change it to individual origins, and then bring it in some, because the hand usually looks like this. All right, the thumb not so much, so I'll just bring it over some, and then again make slight adjustments to the hand. Okay, all right, and because I want the other hand to be similar, I will just select all of it. I keep hitting save. I'm gonna come up to pose, copy, and I'll do the same thing over here. And what I'll do is I'll pose flipped. Now I know most people will probably do that with hotkeys, but I tend not to because sometimes I fumble too much. I'm just being honest about it. Okay, so you see how this foot is not even? Same thing. What I'll do is I'll just make the appropriate adjustment. Okay. Same thing here. Bring it up. Adjust it accordingly. All right. So now that's retargeted. Okay. Now another thing I notice is if I go sideways, the body seems to be aimed in a direction like that's just like, you see this? Like, it's like, does the body really stand that way? Who knows? But it's whatever you choose. Okay. So if I turn this off and I hit play, so let's see the hands movement, and it's still good, right? So nothing's deformed, nothing's weird, because that's what we're really checking for. And he goes right back to the way he came, right? But you're starting to see parts of the clothing clipping through. Now the deal here is what you want to do is you would go and use a mask, right? So let's say, because here in version 4, in version 3, it automatically give you that when you make your changes, but in version 4, I for some reason not working right now, so I had to go in and make that change myself. And I'll put in long, right? So I want long lower, and this way now the pants actually are there's no mesh underneath here where the pants are. Okay, now another thing I notice is since he's not wearing an undershirt, if I give him a mask for his shirt, we'll come back over to the modifiers, go to mask. We're going to, now understand I'm hitting this invert. It's a reason for that, because the majority of the mesh would disappear if I don't invert it. Okay, so what I'll do is go long. All right, so this time I'm going to do arms. Now, the center of him disappeared, did it not? Right? So we don't want that. But this is how you fix that. What I'll do is come in here. Okay, and for some reason it's just weird. I don't know why. But what I'll do is hold on. Let me hide. No, let me make this a fake user. I'm going to clear. So this way, whenever it come back, it's there. I'm going to go ahead and clear his position. I'm going to hide his jacket. I'm going to click this. I'm going to go into edit mode, I'm going to go into the vertex groups, and then I'm going to type in mask. And I know I want the arms mask, so I want arms long. And I'm going to select that. So I already know this part across the top is what I need. Okay, so what I'll do is I go into 6 because I want to see it. I'm going to hit remove and just click C, and then I'm going to just bring this in to where I want it to literally like only like to continue to do its thing. Okay, so I'll go ahead and select that one back and deselect these. All right. Oh no, these two. Yeah, keep those, delete that, and then assign. So now when I assign it and I bring back his jacket. Okay, come on now. All right, so when I bring back his jacket, let's go back into 2, and I give him the animation, it shouldn't do the same thing in the corners of the arm anymore, because now we have that space where it's open and we still can see underneath there. So these are things you can do to help yourself move a little faster when you're using this particular add-on. Okay, and then again, the things I just did with version 4 you can do with version 3. Hope to help somebody, man. Keep at it, never give up. When you ask the question, think about what you could do first. Remember, 3D is specifically about problem solving, because the thing you want to do is easily done if the problem's out of the way. Nothing but love.